always complaining about my feet being cold. But thankfully, here at the Kansai Collective at the W Station, they've got great heating. You guys want to stay here?
Yes, I'm
you can
feeling
bundle up in the
good.
winter. You can chill in the summer. Great heating, great insulation, great HVAC at the W Station. Thank you guys tuning in. You guys know who it is. It's Asa Questenberry. It's the man.
Zane live in the Kansai, man.
Live in the Kansai. That's
You
gonna be
already
your
know. It is.
your new title, Zane
It
Live
feels
in the
good.
Kansai.
It feels good saying that. That's why I love language. You feel me?
Language
Just
is
play with the
beautiful.
words.
So desu ne.
So ya na. So ya na.
One day we're gonna have enough situations set up to where we can just have episodes in Japanese and have the translations done. And
Dang. Yeah,
we
that's
would
going to
love
be
to.
beautiful.
But one day, man, once that Dharma is true,
Yes.
once we've done another Dharma to get even stronger with our subscriber
Once
count.
we get 1,000, bro, it's only we're tripling our subscribers.
Hopefully. But that
Yeah.
depends. You guys got to give us some feedback. Do you like our content? Do you like what we're
Yes.
doing? Can
Come
we
on.
be better? Can we change some things up? We want to hear from you guys. So drop some comments, like, subscribe, follow, share our page, do whatever you got to do. But we're happy that you're joining us for another episode of the
Exactly.
Kansai Collective.
And so today we're going to talk about, something that's affecting the whole world.
World,
You
tell me if you know what it is.
It's that COVID. It's that thing.
COVID.
That beep corona. You feel me?
Yes, man. So, not to, I don't know what to say, we'll just cut this out. So, yes, COVID in Japan.
Yes.
It's been
Well,
interesting.
like for you, how did it like for me when it first came, when Corona hit, bro, like what did you know like it was coming to Japan?
Okay. I have arguably a funny story about this, but I have a wonderful and horrible habit that I've gotten better of, but I religiously check the news for, stories or stocks or whatever. I'm always on the news. So forever ago, I was reading that there was a new virus in China, and they thought it came from snakes. One of the original animal kind of transmitters they thought was a snake. So I, at the time, was just making tons of jokes with people, telling people not to catch the snake flu.
Oh,
I even hashtag snake flu. I thought I was going to name the next pandemic. Unfortunately, they chose a much more scientific name. They didn't go with snake flu, which is, kind of missed that opportunity. But I thought it was a joke. But I wouldn't say hypochondriac, but I'm very aware of the fragility of some of our systems. So I was like, this might be not great. And at the time, it was just China. And it was escalating really rapidly.
Right.
And I had a conversation with a friend, Japanese guy, and he was like, "Oh, what do you think if it gets to America?" I'm like, "If it gets to America, like all, bad things are gonna happen." He's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "There are so many, things at play that would make this response much worse in America." And lo and behold, I unfortunately was correct. So, take a moment. Again, COVID is a very, very serious thing. Wear your masks. We are very beneficial, or we have a lot of benefits here in Japan where it's been a bit better. But again, taking a moment to give kind of moment of silence to people that were affected, families, friends, people, loved ones lost. We feel for you guys. This has been a rough year and a half for everyone. Everyone has kind of been in this collective situation together.
So what were you doing, like, because when COVID, I think, came around April?
No. It's for, it got to Japan in April, right?
Yeah, that's
It started in November 2019, but it got newsworthy around January.
Okay. Yeah.
My dad was actually visiting Japan in February 2020. So he was in some of the last groups to Japan before the doors shut.
Okay.
So we heard about it. You start seeing cases. I remember when the first patient in the U.S. happened, you start hearing about it. And you're like, oh, all right, this looks like it's going to be a bit crazier than people have anticipated.
Yeah.
But we just have always had the benefit here in Japan where, whether it be the masks or, behavior, it didn't have the immediate, like, rapid expansion that happened in the U.S.
You know what's interesting? My friend, because there's like a lot of, I guess, natural disasters that can happen in Japan, like a tsunami or earthquake, right? So a lot of like as kids when they're young, in their elementary schools, they have earthquake drills.
All the time.
Yeah, exactly. So they are like constantly practicing, like to prep for a natural disaster or an emergency. So Japanese people, like my friend, he recently had like a fire in his building, and he was saying like how Japanese people just kind of
time for an emergency.
Yeah, it's time to go downstairs, just very
there's
smooth.
No panic. They're just like, all right, time to.
And my friend was like, yo, oh my God, I'm scared. But, when you go into a panic like that, right, it just kind of turns into chaos. So it's really interesting. Like you said, people just are kind of more prepared for emergencies.
And it's interesting, I think, and that idea permeates into the response in Japan, where it was a very slow kind of, you can argue drawn out, but it was a very cautious approach to not, jumping the gun. Like China, for example, once it hit 60K, they're like, nope, everything's closed. You can't travel from different cities. Nope, stay at your house. And there's a lot of, legal repercussions if you did break those kind of rules. But Japan was they're like, let's kind of see how this plays out. On paper, you would assume that Japan is a perfect country to have a really bad COVID situation. Extremely high elderly population. Most of the population lives in urban centers, and most people use public transit in very, very tight, crowded trains like this to get around. So you would think that it would explode here, and that was the weirdest thing. It never did. Right?
Yeah, man. What was interesting for me, we had an episode on the Hanami, right? On the cherry blossoms. And for me, that's April is when it came to Japan. And there was just nobody going to see cherry blossoms. It was wild to me, right? Exactly. No crowds. Like, this was when they were telling people to stay home, like they had that little campaign all over social media. And, there was just nobody. That's when, like, it really hit me like, wow, this is, this corona thing is real.
No, it hit me when the embassy sent a letter to my residence saying that, or maybe they sent it to my workplace. I'm not sure. My workplace employed a lot of foreigners, so maybe that's somehow there was an embassy letter sent out to Americans, and it was saying, "Hey, the Japanese government has made us aware that if you leave the country, you can't come back in." So, and this again speaks to maybe this is why things were different, but Japan essentially shut the country down.
Right.
You could not come into the country. I think from April to the next, I think till the beginning or close to the end of 2020. And even then you could come to Japan if you were Japanese.
And it's crazy, like a lot of college students had to go home.
Of course.
Yeah, right. And now they're stuck there.
Yeah, man. It's been very, very, and that was unfortunate for Japan in the sense that it really affected the image of Japan with their expat community. So I know people that have, been in Japan for 30 years. They have families, they have businesses, houses, whatever. And for the government to tell even those people like, hey, if you leave Japan, you can't come back. It's like, what do you mean? This is my home. I've been here 30 years. I contribute to my community.
Right.
So, there will be arguments about that approach for decades to come and the damage it did to the image of Japan in terms of living here as a foreigner or an expat. But that being said, on the other hand, Japan has been spared a lot of the carnage that you've seen in other countries, right?
Well, yeah, that's a fact. Definitely, the people here have a more communicative type of thinking approach. So they definitely feel like they have responsibility to keep the virus at a minimum.
Kind of limit the spread or whatever.
But, you know, like for me, man, I love traveling in Japan and I love temples. You know, so when you go to there's certain temples that are really famous and they rely on tourism, right? And it's just crazy, man, because like there's city or like towns that are literally, because of the temple is so famous, like
Ise
Jingu, Koyasan, there's Yoshino, there's like just these towns that are
thrive
like,
off that tourism.
Yes, tourism, right? And then boom, you know, they close the doors, no more tourism, and it's like, dang, you know, like these are people's livelihoods.
Hurting, without a doubt, hurting, definitely.
God, it's just because I love temples, you know, and
I just love visiting shrines and temples. That's Zane's thing, but this, and then that leads perfectly into just more of the criticism that was heard here in the country is, at the time, you know, Japan's cases were escalating. Again, escalating was like, you know, they had 1,000 a day, and at the same time, America was at like 160K a day. Something just absurd. So it was interesting being an American here and then seeing like the different, you know, kind of responses. But the government got really criticized because not only did they really not respond quickly, they started a travel campaign over the summer, peak, you know, COVID time, where the cases were through the roof, and the government unveiled like it was called the Go To Travel campaign, which was awesome. That was, I mean, that's true. They were trying to give those tourist towns a little help, and you could get like huge reductions on bullet trains. Hotels were like 50% or more off. They wanted you to travel.
Yeah, that's crazy. Me and my wife actually.
Did you enjoy the Go To travel?
Yeah, we went to a really like 5-star hotel for one night.
For nothing. For no money.
Yeah, very cheap. Yeah, for no money. Very cheap, man. But yeah, that's very interesting.
But it came with this. It ended up with this really goofy situation where, you know, people are joking here. The government's like, you know, stay home, but go spend money.
Right.
But don't get sick. But support the economy and travel. But don't get your friends sick. So it was this weird contradiction.
Yeah, we love Japan, man. Don't get us wrong. This is just how things played out.
Yeah, it's the reality. It's what happened. And as Zane just said, I mean, I prefer being in Japan, and we have been very blessed to be here because at the end of the day, you know, you can criticize the response or whatever happened, but Japan has been arguably spared.
Right.
You know, I mean, again, there have been losses, but, you know, compared to some of the other countries, compared to our home country, it's night and day, right?
Right, yeah. Like, we can go out as far as, like, to different places.
Just being here at the W Station right now, which reminds us, if you guys are ever in town looking for a place to stay, come by to the W Station. We appreciate them giving us the space today.
Right.
But, like I said, just being here and being able to do this and be in a public space.
So, yeah, blessed. That's a fact, right? Like, so tell us, like, if you were going to go out with your girl, right, and you were going to go out to eat, what are some things that, like, Corona has affected? Like, what do you have to do in order to, like...
Here in Japan?
Yeah.
Well, you have to get your temperature checked with a little thermometer gun, and you have to squirt alcohol on your
is that
hands.
normal, bro? They shoot it... I don't know. Do they do that in other countries? They shoot it, the thermometer gun at your forehead.
Forehead, wrist, something. It's all, I mean, I think it's rather pointless. But, because at the end of the day, they want customers. They're going to be like, well, you're a little hot, but just, you know, don't cough on anyone. Well, what's interesting, and this trips me out to this day, is I haven't been back to the U.S. in a long time because of the initial rules with COVID. So I have no idea what it was like in the U.S. Of course, you hear from friends and family, but I have zero idea what the pandemic is like.
Yo, bro, one
in
thing
the U.S.
like that just kind of blows my mind. I don't know if this happened in other countries, but People were going crazy for toilet paper.
Oh, that happened everywhere. That was all over the news.
God.
The toilet paper. I think the Japanese news saw that the Americans were going and the Australians were going nuts over toilet paper. So Japan's like, oh, well, we need toilet paper too.
Yeah, man. I went to Costco and, man, they had to limit people to one toilet paper.
One package of toilet paper?
Yeah, per household unit, man. Come on.
One thing that's interesting is the fact that, I mean, some people, probably don't like it, but you're living through history. I mean, it's a point in time that will be looked back upon, will be studied. My personal opinion, I think the worst job anyone could have in the last 5 years as a politician, because the last 2 years, there's no winning. Right. You're just taking L's. Every decision you make, something's gonna go wrong, right? So you want to protect the economy, not have your country's economy collapse. Well, that's not gonna work. You want to, keep people from getting sick, not having them die. Yeah, that's also probably not gonna work, right? So very few countries did it right. I don't think maybe a handful or less did it arguably well, but most countries kind of showed how fragile some of our systems can be. So as we are on, you could argue the other side of this situation, right? I mean, in Osaka, we're having a bit of a spike recently, which is, 500 people in a day for a city of 20 million plus in the Kansai metropolitan. So it's media definitely plays a part in all this and escalating, the craziness of it. But
it's a fact.
But it's what do you do, right? Sometimes, but a very, very ridiculous situation.
I think, comparing from last year, people are definitely much more relaxed. It was a lot more tense. People didn't know how this was going to end up. We were all waiting for Corona to,
end
be finished. Yes.
Essentially. Well, I think when I came to Japan 2018, my first year and a half in Japan, up until COVID, Japan was at the highest tourism numbers it's ever had, ever. To the point where I hated going to Kyoto because it was just so slammed with tourists. I didn't want to wait 40 minutes in line to look at a temple. That's miserable.
Yes.
So it went from the highest number of tourists we had right before COVID in September, October. We had the Rugby World Cup here in Japan, in Osaka. And so you had the highest number of tourists ever, right? And then COVID happens, and Japan has had the lowest number of, obviously because the country was closed, no tourism, 0. It went from the highest ever to nothing. So it was like someone flipped a switch.
Yes.
So now we've been a year and a half of COVID. So I'm about 3 years in Japan. I've had this really kind of dualistic experience in Japan, where the first half of Japan was, you're going to izakayas and bars and nightclubs and tourism and meeting new people from traveling to just
wow, that's so
no
true.
one. And any foreigners you meet these days, it's like, how long have you been here?
Wow.
Or you're not asking where are you coming from, because no one can travel to the country right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. My friend, a good friend of mine, he actually wanted to go to Australia, but he's not allowed in Australia. Australia closed their doors to everybody. He's American, and he's been wanting to wanting to leave Japan for a year now, but
stuck.
Yeah, he's stuck here, and Japan just keeps on renewing his
tourist visa.
Tourist visa. So every 3 months he has to go to that immigration office.
Dun dun dun. Immigration right up there with the ward office where you don't want to go.
So he's in this state. He was ready to leave, but now he's here, and
stuck.
Yeah, he's stuck. And man, I don't know where his head is at, but I'm sure
it's got to be tough, man.
But for me, living here, man, not having tourists is kind of cool, right?
Well,
because the temples, you feel me? You could, it's literally like,
this
no
is
one's
the duality
really there.
Where, like I said before, Kyoto, 20 minutes from us, it's the cultural. Kyoto and Nara are by far the cultural centers of Japan. Even some of the oldest history in Japan is in those places. Before COVID, man, you could not go to those spots without just
so crazy
seas of tourists. And now they're empty. So it has created with Kyoto in particular. Kyoto and Venice, I believe, are the two most over-touristed places in the world.
Get out of here.
Right?
Really?
Yeah. Quick fact for you guys. Venice, Kyoto. Two most over-touristed places in the world. And they're two of the original cities that started this idea of over-tourism and how it can, you want to, if you have a cultural heritage, you want to, celebrate it and also have your economy benefit it. That's the big one.
Right.
But at what point does that benefiting it starts to damage the actual place? It ruins the experience. So Kyoto and Venice were two cities that really started this conversation. But for people living in Japan at this time, it created this really weird once-in-a-lifetime experience where you can visit Kyoto and get an experience of what it's like to be there before Japan was as, Instagrammable and exposed as it is right now. Right?
Yes.
So I never toured around Kyoto until COVID. So all my experience with these, 1,000-year-old temples is no people. Right.
Wow. I mean,
So one of the things we're blessed with.
Yeah. I was going to Kyoto all the time, and I would see, just tons and tons and tons of tourists, man. And just to be able to go now and
not have to worry about anything.
Yeah, man. It feels really good, but then I also feel for my, my Japanese home. You feel me? Like these people make a living off of tourism. So
livelihoods are hurting for sure.
Yeah. But, when the doors open again, man, it's going to get crazy, bro.
Crazy real fast. I know you guys are going to be interested to come see the Kansai Collective. Come check out Osaka.
Yes.
But and we can have lots of conversations on COVID. I personally believe that there will be much more positive that will come from COVID than the negative in the long term. Businesses are going to close, but at the same time, those are new opportunities for people to start new businesses, and that's normally what happens in the cycles of things. So it is unfortunate. Again, we are very aware of the effects this has had across the world. If you or someone has been affected by COVID, our thoughts, prayers, condolences go out to you guys.
Sending positive vibes.
Of course, nothing but that. That being said, it has definitely been an interesting experience here in Japan with COVID, regardless of how the government's handled it. And again, I don't even know. I mean, I hear from friends and family, but in the UK, you get fined if you go out without a reason.
Wow.
Right? And imagine that in Japan.
Yeah.
Because in Japan, we never had a lockdown. We had a strong recommendation to stay home, but no repercussions, arguably.
Right.
So my experience and forever how I remember this will be so different than people in stateside.
Yo, you know what's so crazy? We could keep going, but the work schedule for a lot of Japanese people, they were so used to going to work every day. You feel me?
12 hours.
But then they get hit with COVID, right? And now some people would go to work, but some people would stay home. And
Telework.
So you have now these people are being able to do their work at home. Some people were enjoying it. But some people don't like it because then you're not in that work environment. You don't see people
bored.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's definitely going to change how people work.
Yeah. So just before we cut it, just a quick example. Before COVID, Japan had no sense of the idea of video work. Now in the U.S., Western countries, Canada, I mean, it's a thing. It wasn't common. It wasn't every day, but it was there. Japan had zero. One of the biggest knocks on Japan is the digital infrastructure here is far behind other G7 countries. So this country went from no video chats, no working at home ever. It was unheard of. You just didn't do that. To in 8 months, an entire new system was developed and set up, and a whole transition. And arguably speaking, it pushed Japan's working culture ahead 15, 20 years in a span of 8 months. Wow. So lots of interesting kind of dynamics to it. But we'll cut it there. We can talk forever on it. Guys, thank you so much. We appreciate you sticking with us for another episode of the Kansai Collective. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends, send us some questions, send us some feedbacks. We can't get better unless you know what we're doing wrong or you tell us what we're doing wrong.
Yeah, let us know what you what's going on with your COVID situation?
We want to hear. We want to hear everything. How was it? Was it okay? Was it horrible? What have you done to get through it? Drop us some comments. Let us know.
All right, guys. Until next time, man.
Not yet. We just want to go ahead and thank our W Station, our sponsor.
Always. He's very good at that. He's always
with the space. We couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you again, all the W Station fam. We appreciate you guys letting us be here, letting us film. Dronex Global always getting us the equipment so that we can come and bring you guys some of our experiences. We'd like to thank both these sponsors. Check out their websites. They can be found down in the description below. Thanks again, guys. We appreciate you sticking with us. Bow, bow, bow. We are checking out. Peace.